All right, so we're at the first meeting of the year. I will call this to order for purposes of organizing the officers. And it is now 6 o'clock. Don't have roll call sheet. Angela, you want to just do that for us? Thank you.
David Bradley, Thomas Neri,
Here.
Greg Cantwell, Douglas Gray,
Here.
Steve Hickman,
Here.
Jonathan Myers,
Here.
Robert Page,
Here.
Joni Van,
Here.
Ron West.
Present. Thank you. That brings us to the election of officers. And we need to elect a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary. Those can be elected all at once as a slate, or we can have individual nominations one by one. If you're going to do that, I would recommend that you start with the chair. And at this point, I'll open up to nominations.
I'd like to nominate Steve
Second
Hickman.
nomination.
I'm sorry, Steve Hickman, please.
All
For
right,
the chairman's position.
thank you. We have a nomination and a second for Steve Hickman as chairman. Do we have any other nominations? All right, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Steve, you can take over from here.
Careful what you wish for.
Okay, so we have a nomination for a vice chairman. I'd like to nominate Mr. Britt. Second.
I'm sorry, is that what you do on me?
Doug Britt.
Thank you.
With a motion and a second by Ron. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then finally for secretary.
Question, I'm currently the secretary, and I thought that was running another couple years until 28.
Secretary, no, that's your board position. That's your board
Just the
appointment.
board position, I thought the secretary position. 28.
Secretary, these are all yearly appointed.
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Stony Van.
Second.
With a motion and a second for Mr. Van. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion good. So you get it for now. And no other appointments?
Are there any other appointments?
Subcommittee or?
We're going, do you want to go into other appointments or? We have a recording secretary, BZA, variance, technical review, and plat committee.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Angela Olson for recording secretary. Have a second? Second. All in favor of Angela for recording secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You said BZA?
BZA, which is currently Charlie.
The nomination for BZA?
Charlie, you want to do it again?
Sure, that's the pleasure.
I'd like to not make a motion to nominate Charlie, please.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And next one,
Hearing officer, which is Cantwell.
he's not here, let's nominate him.
Yeah.
They just signed it, yeah. Okay.
They'll do
I'll make a
it.
motion to nominate Greg Catwell.
Second. Third. Okay, all in favor of Greg being hearing officer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Technical review representative, which is currently Hickman. This is the easiest one. I mean, I would volunteer for it.
I'm gonna. Who is it now?
Steve.
It's me now. I was gonna nominate Robert.
Second.
All in favor of Robert, say aye.
Aye.
Votes?
And then our plat committee, which is currently Steve, Greg Cantwell and Doug Gray.
Sound like a good group to me.
They were doing a good job.
Yeah.
That's
Our
nomination. Nomination for Steve, Doug and Greg for plat committee, and second.
Second.
Yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great. Need to go on to the approval of our minutes from the November 17th, 2025 meeting. Anybody a chance to review or any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's not roll call.
That's not necessary as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. We'll go into our public hearing phase. We have continued hearings. No continued hearings. The new hearing would be for the W-1-26, the Overland Group. They are requesting a waiver of the commercial subdivision development standards. And I believe they have 15 minutes total, 10 minutes.
Oh,
first
you're
to
too
speak.
fast.
Right.
Let me go first.
Oh. Staff report.
Okay. All right, W-1-26, which is for the property at 3079 South US 31, Franklin, Indiana. Its petitioner is the Overland Group by Tyler Oach. They are requesting a waiver from the Johnson County Unified Development Ordinance to allow for a commercial subdivision on a 5.23 acre parcel of land where the chapter 5 of the UDO in the table 5.4 requires a minimum development standard of 10 acres. This property is located south of Franklin in Blue River Township. It's 5.23 acres. It's currently zoned GC, general commercial. Here's currently the property where it is situated on the old State Road 31 and East 300 South, just by the intersection of 300 South and South US 31. The site is surrounded by residential use. The property once was a agricultural cell barn. It is currently being used for storage for a SNR Property LLC, who is the current property owner. Here's the area of the property that is currently shows one building on, or a building on the property. As stated, they are requesting a waiver from the commercial subdivision regulations for 5.23 acres that does not satisfy the 10 acre minimum development requirement of chapter 5, section D3 of the Unified Development Ordinance. What is a waiver? Just kind of, we haven't done a waiver in a while. I don't even know if we really, I can't remember. I didn't look at my stats from last year, but I don't know if we did a waiver last year. But a subdivision waiver is to approve an exemption granted by the Plan Commission that allows a developer to alter a specific subdivision design standard, such as road widths, utility requirements, with anything that would be within our subdivision design standards, without violation of the overall intent of the land use regulations. Waiver is used when strict adherence of the law causes a hardship due to unique property constraint. Of the waiver is an opportunity to provide flexibility on unusual sites. This is typically to our Board of Zoning Appeals that hears variances. In our UDO, we have two sections where we have development standards for all development that is mostly in chapter 3 and 4. Those are heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals, but when we get into chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is talking about subdivision regulations, those are heard by the Plan Commission. This request tonight is not a request to approve a division of land. It is if the waiver is approved, then the land division process is simply allowed to move forward to seek its own approval. So tonight we're discussing the waiver, not to approve the division as it is presented. So here, in your staff report is what you see up here as well as a chart. This is, the part in red is what is, they're seeking a waiver from, which it says a 10-acre requirement. A minimum development size. As a little history, as explained in the staff report, prior to the adoption of the Unified Development Ordinance in October of 2024, the previous subdivision control ordinance only recognized 3 types of subdivisions: a major, minor, and a roadside subdivision, which apply to both residential and commercial uses and industrial as well. The current UDO does now separate types of uses and types of subdivision. So we have about 3 types of agricultural and residential subdivisions. And then we have a specific subdivision for commercial and a specific subdivision for industrial, because they are in essence handled a little bit differently than a residential subdivision. Mostly commercial subdivisions with large acreage does blocks, which then can be further divided without plan commission approval. And how those go about too as well. And then they do internal roads that are privately owned, not necessarily public infrastructures. Along with the new categories that were developed in UDO, development standards were established, which is where the creation of the 10-acre minimum, which was implemented for the commercial subdivision. While this subject parcel does fall short of the threshold, it is noted that the proposed lots do fully comply with the minimum lot requirements that are set forth in Chapter 2 under commercial regulations of minimum size, road frontage, lot width, all that. I did consult with our consultant that helped us draft the UDO and asked for a little bit guidance of what this 10-acre regulation came about. What was the intent of this 10-acre regulation? And as explained, it was to standardize a design to be more cohesive planned commercial development rather than isolated one-off lots. It is the goal to promote large-scale connectivity between commercial lots. However, so what that means is up here on this PowerPoint, you can see this is Morgantown and Smith Valley. The 2 corners have a gas station, and I think that is Brothers, it's auto repairs. But all the other lots that are to the right of it are all residentially are used lots, but they are commercially zoned for future commercial development. We would not encourage one of those small lots to come in and plat and divide because it is small. The encouragement is to get majority of those lots to come together to, in essence, create a bigger, better planned, platted community subdivision plat for commercial development that would be more cohesive, more planned out. And then this is a kind of very similar situation at Bluff Road across the street. We have a vacant land, but then we have a couple commercial development, but on the east side is all residential development. The goal would be in this situation is to encourage, which a majority of all those parcels are owned by one property owner at the moment, but their intention was to buy majority of those lots so it could be a successful commercial development. But however, we in the county do have other one-off situations where we have small little lots that by either annexations or zoning districts or road intersections are island off. This one is by New Whiteland, and then the one on the right-hand side is by Franklin. These are 1 acre, or I believe both of those are 5-acre tracts of land that have no ability to increase their size to do a subdivision. One's not really vacant, but the one that is next to Franklin on the right-hand side, that is over 5 acres. Like I said, they have no ability because it's already annexed and all of the rest of the land is annexed into the city of Franklin, have no ability to increase. So what is presented by the applicant and what the staff has stated, as you can see, this property on the south side and east side are zoned residential. And then also there's a railroad track. And then across the streets are additional BC zoning districts, but those are across the street. So it's kind of hard to add on to that property and say we can meet the 10-acre requirement without without rezoning additional property to the south or to the east. To go over kind of the staff report, findings of facts. As our UDO, we expressed some waiver conditions and considerations, kind of similar to what we would do at the Board of Zoning Appeals. But granting them the waiver, will not be a negative impact to the public health and safety. The subdivision land does not change the nature of the use. It is zoned general commercial and therefore is not jurisdiction in the surrounding parcels. So what they're requesting is to divide the land. The land can be today divided commercially without any board approval. The waiver request will not affect the degree adjacent. The land is already zoned commercial development and the current zoning allows for such without requiring platting. The waiver does not grant any additional development rights beyond what's already permitted. It simply allows for legal land division and legal land ownership. The conditions sought by the waiver are unique to the property. The parcel is uniquely isolated. The surrounding land is not zoned general commercial, making it impossible for the applicant to expand the development area to meet the 10-acre requirement. Other nearby general business zone parcels are separated by public right-of-way, preventing consolidation. The ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. To strictly adhere to the 10-acre would prevent the property owner from dividing into smaller manageable lots under different ownership, even though the proposed lots satisfy all the other ordinance requirements. The waiver is not primary for economic benefit. The applicant seeks the division to ensure orderly development and clear ownership boundaries. The request is based on establishing proper lot standards rather than seeking a significant financial gain. The waiver is not due to hardship caused by the current property owner. The 5.3 parcel and the surrounding geographic constraints exist long before the current and future property owner acquired the property. Hardship is a result of the 2024 regulatory change and not the physical boundaries. And then the waiver, aside from the minimum development size, the proposed subdivision complies with all aspects of the unified development and lies with the general intent of the comprehensive plan. Any questions from staff?
Michelle, you noted on your report that the average parcel lot size, according to you, is like 2 acres.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Sorry, you mentioned that the average lot size now commercially in the county is 2 acres.
No, sorry, what I had did some research and I pulled all of our general business zoning districts and 50% of all unplatted parcels don't meet the 10-acre requirement. I don't know, I didn't do a general size, but I would say they're roughly all unplatted is probably about 3 to 5, but we have some larger but they're far and few.
Okay.
We're not a county with a lot of general commercial zone property.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Michelle?
Michelle, is this waiver transferable to other owners? If we granted a waiver and nothing happened at all, and the property was sold, would that waiver transfer to new ownership? Or does someone have to redo it again?
I think there is an expiration. I feel, I mean, without reading my UDO and expiration, it's kind of like variances. Like if you come in and you want a larger barn and you get that approval, but then you wait a year to build it, you have about 2 years to build within that variance before you have to seek the variance again. I'm assuming if you were to sell your property, it stays with the land as far as development standards. So I'm assuming if Overland Builders didn't go forward with the sell of the property, but somebody else came in within a reasonable time frame, they can still move it forward with the same concept. They can't I don't think they can dramatically change the proposed layout. I don't know.
Well, one way to kind of getting around it, I think probably
if you're gonna grant a waiver. If you're gonna grant a waiver and you're concerned about whether or not it would be transferable, just specify either that the waiver is conditioned upon the development ultimately being in accordance with whatever plan you have been provided, site plan and so forth. Or you could specify that the waiver only applies to that particular property owner.
Or petitioner, so I think the petitioner, this, so, yeah.
And Michelle, we adopted this UDO in 2024.
Correct.
When would we redo a UDO?
I mean, we wouldn't necessarily do an overhaul, the unified development ordinance within 5 or 10 years unless, dramatic changes of development, forces us to consider those, but we would make amendments. I bet we made about a dozen or more amendments on the last ordinance from 2003 to 2024. There was about over a dozen noted amendments, so we can make amendments as you guys direct me, or if I ask you guys like, hey, this isn't working, we need to make amendment.
So we could easily make an amendment and reduce the minimum acreage.
Mhm.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, can you kick the volume up any, Angel?
Can you hear me okay now? So we could amend the minimum acreage at any time if we wanted to.
Yes, Tony, I actually asked to look at that in our comprehensive plan to see if the UDO actually aligns with the comprehensive plan as far as commercial development. So maybe we can just table that as an agenda item for a future.
I thought we would see how this went first before.
Maybe it's not a fair question, but I don't know. What is different now than what it was when this first came up, other than changing the acre size?
The
It-
original plat did not meet the requirement 10 acres, so they are, if they attempt to come back with a preliminary plat to seek approval, one of the requirements that they need to do is seek a waiver from this requirement.
Other than that, that's the only thing
Yeah, At this
different.
moment, yeah, they haven't refiled anything for preliminary plat approval.
But as far as how that can be divided after it's done, that hasn't changed any. Acre size and that kind of stuff. If they want to divide it again, I mean. Okay.
Yeah, so it's important to remember that tonight's decision is not about what is built on there, if it even is going to get separated. It's, just do we allow that to be less than the 10 acres? Any other questions, comments? No, public hearing.
Want me to take it from here?
Want to go from there?
Sure. That's fine. All right, we're now at a point where we're gonna open a public hearing, and the petitioner will get the opportunity to speak first. And we'll have 15 minutes to present the petition. After which the remonstrators will have a total of 20 minutes. And after that, the petitioner will have an opportunity of 5 minutes to respond to those comments and questions. And with that, I would like and ask for anyone who desires to speak for or against this petition to stand and raise your right hand and take the oath of witness. Do you and each of you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties for perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you. And when when it's your time to speak, come to the podium, try and speak into the microphone, and start by stating your name and address for the record. Thank you.
All set? Yeah. Is the mic working?
Might want to get
a little bit closer.
Is it working now?
There, yeah.
All right, we'll just try to speak real close into it.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Tyler Oakes. I'm an attorney with Bose McKinney and Evans. Address of 111 Monument Circle, Suite 2700, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204. Here today, as staff has stated, on behalf of Overland Group, currently seeking a waiver of Chapter 5D3 of the Johnson County UDO regarding commercial subdivision for property located at 3079 South US 31, obviously here in Johnson County. Just a couple housekeeping things. Overall, we will reiterate everything staff said. Appreciate Michelle's work on this, went through the report, and we're going to piggyback on that. I just want to kind of bring some light to a couple things, emphasize a couple things. So we'll try to keep it brief because, like I said, Michelle has kind of covered a lot of our presentation. So first and foremost, again, current use, this is roughly a 5-acre parcel. Currently, the southern portion of that parcel is being used for storage by the current owner. Process wise, this obviously came before the board back in, I wasn't a part of it then, but I think October, give or take. But I know there was a question regarding process, and for that process to fully move forward, the waiver needs to be acquired first, and then it would essentially redo the process. But because that waiver was never received in the first place, they were never really eligible to file for that plat. So this is a step in the UDO process to kind of rectify that wrong. So again, we're going to respectfully request that this waiver is granted so my client could move forward with seeking potential plat and subdivision. So a couple things as stated. Geographically, I think it's really important that this is a pretty unique piece of property located in the county. You can see from the map right there that to the north and to the west, you are restricted by public right-of-way. You've got 300 South and then Old US 31. To the east, you've got the railroad track that runs, right up against the property. And then to the south, as you start to go farther out of the picture to the south, you start eventually getting into some residence. So the subdivision, or if the waiver were granted, the subdivision would occur just north of that building in the picture. And so anything that would be built would be on that northern site. So there'd be a nice little buffer there between that northern site and any of the residents to the south. As staff pointed out, this site, as well as a large portion around it, is all general commercial. And so any use that would go there would have to remain in that general commercial usage as defined in the UDO. A couple things we just want to address why we think this waiver, or why we were asking for, why we think this waiver is going to be a good thing and why we hope you would grant it. I think first off, it's important to acknowledge, as staff has said, both of these lots, if split, the smallest one would still be 2 acres. So it would comply with all parts of Chapter 2 in the UDO in terms of lot minimum size and development standards of things of that nature. So it's a perfectly sized lot from that standpoint. You can see just based off of that the bottom portion, while it's 2 acres in and of itself, that's a lot of vacant land there to the north that's currently not being used and is underutilized. So this waiver would allow us to move forward with the process to properly utilize that land. That goes hand in hand with proper land planning techniques in terms of planning has designated that to be general commercial, and currently that's a whole lot of land that would not be able to really be used. So the split would allow us to move forward and go down that process so that piece of property can on its own become a productive piece of property for the county, start generating tax base and things of that nature. And it's going to promote orderly and compatible development. So making sure that this goes through the right process, making sure that, this development, although there's the 10-acre requirement, which is what we're asking for, every single other requirement is going to be met. And ultimately, this is going to provide another contributing piece of property to the county. So we would lastly, to conclude, just want to reiterate both our findings of fact that were submitted and should be in your packet, as well as staff's finding of fact. We've reviewed theirs separately and certainly want to piggyback and agree with everything that they've said. And so with that, I will open it up to questions. But again, we respectfully request approval of this waiver so that we can move forward with the platting process.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Oaks? Okay. We'll now hear from the remonstrators.
My name is Josh Van Meter, 2989 South Old US Highway 31. The granting of this waiver is detrimental to the health and safety of our community and anyone traveling through our community. Traffic concerns at this intersection, as well as off of the US 31 exit ramp, have been talked about in length throughout past hearings, from concerned citizens to members of this commission. It is concerning that there is no reference to the traffic safety in the staff's facts and findings from the denial that happened only 3 months ago. I think it's also important to mention John Bonset's expert testimony on the poor soil quality, as well as the possibility of septic failure, which is also a concern to public health. The condition for this waiver request is not unique to this property. The staff report states only 15% of unplatted parcels zoned general business meet the 10-acre minimum development requirement. This means 85% of parcels zoned general business in Johnson County are in a similar position as this property. That means 85% of properties are similar to this one, which would not make this property unique. The petitioner and their answers are speaking as if the roads and railroads surrounding this property are keeping them from expanding, all while trying to condense the size of this property. There is no hardship due to terms of the UDO. The hardship is caused by the petitioner. The subdivision of this property is solely caused by the petitioner in order to seek financial gain. Denying this subdivision will not keep the owner of this property from using the land for its intended purpose. The petitioner states in their answer that a large portion of this land is going unused. I would argue that not only is this land being used for the raised leach field on the septic system, but it's necessary for a safe and working septic system. We've all seen the evidence and concerns for the lack of suitable soil for future septic systems on this property. This waiver is primarily for the economic benefit of the petitioner. The Overland Group is not the deeded owner of this property. The Overland Group's acquisition of this property is contingent on this waiver and not abiding by Chapter 5 in the Johnson County UDO. It seems clear that we have an investor seeking to subdivide this land to increase revenue and maximize profits. Considering 85% of all unplatted parcels zoned general business do not meet the minimum 10-acre development requirement, approving this waiver would be a bad example and most likely invite investors into our county to buy smaller lots, subdivide them to increase profits, and cram everything they can onto them through waivers and variances. I would also like to note that the staff report suggests that this property is currently being used as storage for S&R Properties, whose address comes back to an Indianapolis address, when in fact, this property is being used by King Construction Group, whose owner is not the same owner as S&R Properties. They're working out of this building daily, using the address on their website, and they have a mailbox outside with their address and phone number on it. I tell you this to confirm that it's S&R Properties' end goal to subdivide this property, to sell a lot, and continue to use the barn on this property as a multi-tenant facility. This being storage for S&R Properties, as well as King Construction Group's place of business. As stated before, it is obvious S&R Properties is cramming everything they can onto this property to increase revenue, which makes this nothing but economical. In closing, I would like to ask the board to deny this waiver. This property is not 9.5 acres or even 8 acres. We're not talking about a piece of land that's barely under the requirements here. It's 50% of the required size to subdivide. Investors and corporations that come into our community should be aligning their business deals within our local laws. We should not be changing or working around our local laws to help investors and corporations align their business deals. We need to set an example now that public health and safety are of utmost importance and not to be overlooked for profits or capital gain. The health and safety of my family, my neighbors, and anyone traveling through our community should remain top priority for all of us. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I've also got pictures here of the mailbox with a different company's name on it, as well as the website of the company that's using this property that is not S&R Properties storage facility.
Thank you, Mr. Van Meter. With respect to the business going out there, do you know if they have a lease to use it or?
I can't answer that question. I know that they're using that address on their website. They have a mailbox with their sticker on it. And they're in there every morning when I go to work and normally there in the evening before they go home. So.
Okay. Would you agree though that a lease is a valid use of the property though from S&R that they could operate a business out of there?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
Do you agree though that a lease of the property from S&R is a valid reason for them to be using the business and would have no say so in this waiver or anything like that?
Well, my point behind that is that it's economic. The owner of this property, the terms of this waiver says it can't be for financial gain. And if they're leasing half of the property and they're going to sell the other half of the property, that would be nothing but economic gain for the owner.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Van Meter?
Thank you.
Before you leave, Michelle, have we gotten a copy of what he's referring to? I would suggest that you go ahead and provide that to the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Dave Eder. I live at 2978 South Old 31, catty corner from this property to the northwest. I read the UDO thoroughly. On pages 7, 92, 218, 222, and 227, all state full compliance of this UDO is needed. Full compliance. On page 92, B4 says standards and exceptions shall be in full compliance and meet all requirements of the UDO, including chapters 3, 5, and 6. Chapter 5 is subdivision types and chapter 6 is subdivision standards. This waiver is trying to change chapter 5 and 6. This is not full compliance. On page 218, C1 of the UDO, it states no one can develop land except in accordance with all the provisions of this UDO. This includes subdivision of property, which shall be approved by the PC in accordance with this UDO. On page 227, 11A1, the interpretation and application of this UDO shall be held to the minimum requirements for the residents of the county. Also on page 227, 11A2A states if there is a conflict, the stricter provision shall apply. The UDO says 10-acre minimum. It doesn't mention half of it. If rules of the UDO are followed is a waiver for each of these rules needed before the 10-acre minimum rule is broke? Should they get a waiver for the whole UDO? Quite a few rules of the UDO have to be broke to break this 10-acre minimum requirement. All of these rules are pretty clear in the UDO. It says full compliance of rules and of minimum requirements. Plain and simple. On page 7, line 8, it says the UDO is to prevent scattered and uncontrolled subdivision of land. Now, for the rules for waivers, on page 162, (10)(c)(3) says a waiver cannot be detrimental to public safety. This is pushing a commercial subdivision through at a dangerous intersection. There have been 4 accidents there since this subdivision was denied in October. 2 at the same time. Another car landed in our yard in January. Last week, a vehicle went into the sale barns ditch, which is the property that this is. These are just the ones I know of. I don't know what happens when I'm not home. 10C7 on the rules of waiver states a waiver cannot have detrimental impact on adjacent property owners. These accidents come onto our properties. This waiver is to allow a commercial subdivision to make it worse. 10C6 states a waiver cannot primarily be for the petitioner's economic benefit. This waiver is to advance a commercial subdivision for the petitioner's financial gain. It's not being donated to the Johnson County Parks or the Boys and Girls Club. It's for the petitioner's economic benefit, plain and simple. The petitioner's economic benefit. Nobody can twist this around any other way. An attorney would not have been hired if money wasn't being made. For the petitioner, it's all about the money, the petitioner's economic benefit. Is this going to mean every little 5 acre of ground in this county is going to get developed, be divided? If it's done for one, it should be for everyone. This is not what waivers were intended for, and the rules of the UDO are clear on this. The UDO was crafted and adopted to prevent things like this from going forward. The rules should be followed. According to the county's UDO, full compliance is needed, not to pick and choose what rules the petitioner wants to go by. Residents of the county surrounding this property should not have to hire an attorney to ensure the county's rules are followed. They are pretty clear. According to the county UDO, this waiver cannot be approved. It seems like it should be a unanimous vote to deny it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Etter. Any questions for Mr. Etter? Thank you.
Demonstrators have 9 minutes at this point.
9 minutes? I'm not going to take that long. My name is John Bonset. I live at 2391 South Old US 31. And some of what we've heard today, we've heard a couple months ago, and I think they all bring out the point that we've got some issues there. My primary concern is the fact that I'm concerned about the public health on this site. We've got a couple septic systems that are proposed to be blended together on one. The soil there is absolutely terrible. It's been documented. They've had failures of previous septic systems on that lot. And a comment letter from the State Department of Health that came out. I shared this with you after the last meeting because I don't think you had a chance to see it. One comment from the State Department of Health said the facility also needs to understand that they are taking a risk if you pursue putting septic systems on this property. This man's got a family with children and got a well right across the street from it. He doesn't want septic systems on poor ground right across from him. I would want to ask Michelle, you showed an example of 2 lots, one around Whiteland and one around Franklin that are of smaller size. Are they served by a sanitary sewer? Just curious. Okay, I just want to know if they had a sewer availability, because I haven't seen anything developed like this in all the time that I was at the Public Health Department that I think is this dangerous to pursue on a site that's not suitable. You're blending things together. It's just, I like to think that we do things well here in Johnson County. This is going in the wrong direction, folks. I hope you turn it down. That's it. Questions?
Any questions?
I would ask, are you going to try to enforce the Unified Development Ordinance as it's written? It's there for a purpose. We don't need to have waivers after waiver after waiver. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonset. Okay. At this time, we'll close the remonstrators and give time back to Mr. Opes.
Just to verify, is there any other persons that want to speak on behalf of the remonstrators? Thank you.
Again, for the record, Tyler Oaks, Bose McKinney and Evans, here on behalf of petitioner Overland Group in quick remonstrance. Excuse me, rebuttal. So I think first, a couple of things that I want to address is first is, strict adherence to the ordinance. We understand it, but the waiver exists for a reason. And that's because there comes time when property is unique and different, and we don't necessarily foresee when that would be applicable. But I think we've reached a situation here. We asked or we were asked, what's unique about the property if 85% of the parcels meet, this, or under the 10, excuse me, acre requirement. It's the geographical restraint of the property. Like we said, because you have the right of ways on the north and to the west, as well as the railroad to the east, the property can never expand. It's constrained to what it is. We heard about it being crammed in. We would respectfully disagree. Like we said, every other part of the ordinance outside of this 10-acre requirement is being met. The minimum lot size is being met. The 2-acre parcel that would come out of this parent tract more than is large enough, given the minimum lot size everywhere we've seen in the UDO. And so again, I want to reiterate that a waiver, it's not granting the split, it's allowing that process to go forward. I know there was a question earlier about what's going to change with the proposal that had come back in November. This isn't the time or place for those changes to have occurred. This allows that to move forward so that changes can be implemented. I know my client has heard concerns, particularly regarding traffic and regarding the septic and the public health, and those have been noted, and those would be updated, I think, in the next application if we were to get to that point. But the waiver allows for us to get to that point. So I do want to reiterate that my client has heard those concerns and those will be addressed. And while I understand remonstrator's point regarding all of those things, like we said, this is not the forum for that to be addressed. This is simply whether or not a waiver is appropriate to allow it to go forward. Because the property is in a unique condition where it can never be subdivided, given the restraints that we've seen, we would respectfully ask that waiver be granted so that we can see that process. And that's where, again, we'd still have to go through TAC. We still have to go through every other process, drainage in the county, to make sure that we're in compliance with those requirements. And so with that, I will again ask if there's any questions. We'd respectfully request that that waiver is granted so we can move forward with the plating process.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Our public hearing is now officially closed. Discussion amongst the council members. Questions, concerns?
Does anybody know is there any sewer close? Or
Please,
I'm sorry.
speak into the mic.
is there any sewer close or somewhat close that? Okay. So you gotta go clear to the sewage plant probably,
Oh, sewage.
to the plant, okay.
It's doable in some locations. Not this project.
So again, I need to remind everyone that this is not about the intended use, old use as proposed use. The plans that were submitted prior to are kind of out of question and consideration. This is strictly, are we enabling a commercial lot to be subdivided into 2 smaller commercial lots for the betterment of the community?
Well, hearing the comments, just going to make a couple brief comments on my own based on what I've heard from the remonstrators. They've made an issue of the potential economic gain of the owners or developers, and that's probably right, but there's no guarantee that they're going to witness economic gain. They could lose money, I guess. So that's kind of a moot point. On the traffic side, we talked to the highway department after the last presentation that we set through on this. They didn't have the records that the gentleman brought forward there as far as accidents that they knew about. I would have to assume that the accidents that are occurring there are from the local residents. So you would think that they would have some local knowledge. I don't know if you know who was involved in the accidents or not, or where they resided, but I gotta believe that the majority of the traffic that goes through that four-way stop there should be familiar with that area. The other thing is, we're looking at a piece of property here that we could go forward in the future and it could just sit there idle. And I'm sure that would placate the residents in that area. I don't know that that's the best benefit for the entire community as we go forward. These are just thoughts that I've had in listening to everybody's comments. As to the waiver process, that's exactly why it's there. And that's why this board is in place, is to consider these kind of options that come before us. It gives us the opportunity to decide on the merits whether a waiver should be granted or not. I think in this case, based on what the Planning and Zoning Department has brought forth and their recommendations, that I personally would move to grant this waiver. As far as the septic, and he's the guru when it comes to septic, there's no question about that. And to address that, I think if the developers had a problem with the septic system going forward, that's something they would have to deal with. And if they couldn't adequately provide the necessary sanitation for that plot of ground, then they for sure would be realizing a negative economic gain. So that's something they're going to have to deal with, whoever develops this property. Those are just my thoughts. Want to get them out there.
Thank you, Ron. I guess I'd also like to just kind of come back and into the comprehensive plan and making sure that we fully understood that, yeah, there was a gap between when we did the UDO and set the 10-acre requirement of the UDO, that it didn't really coincide with that the majority of the businesses in the county wouldn't even meet that UDO. So I think kind of gives us a better way to promote commercial business within the county, especially the smaller ones, instead of having to get a big corporate in there that could afford a 10-acre plus development. Oops. I don't know if this is on or. Okay. So, any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
Make one. Did Ron make one?
He didn't officially make one.
Okay. I didn't.
I roundabout made the motion. I will make the motion to approve the waiver as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Richard seconds.
And just for administrative ease, would that include the staff and the petitioner's findings of facts?
Yes.
Which one, are we adopting both or just we usually in BZA, we only adopt one, which is usually the petitioners.
Okay, is that what you recommend?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the petitioner's findings of fact is what the staff has recommended be approved. Is that what you were wanting?
Yeah.
And second, is that what you were?
And is there a question about the validity, or is it restricted just to the current landowner or expiration of a period of time? Question of either it being 2 years or restricted to the current owner.
Could we make the waiver applicable to the owners so that it would go with the owners and not the property? So if they decided to sell, it wouldn't transfer? Can we do that, Steve?
That's what I read.
And I think you can, and I guess just to clarify, are you wanting to have it run with the current title holder or run with the petitioner?
they can clarify it, but I'm pretty sure Overland Groups, I don't know who will be ultimately the title holder over the transaction. But Overland Group was the petitioner that filed. He might be able to-
And I think it's more sense for it to be the petitioner.
Additional. Right.
And second's good with that.
Okay. Roll call. Okay, ready to vote? Shaylee Bradley is absent. Charlie Canary?
Yes.
Greg Cantwell is absent. Doug Gray?
Yes.
Steve Hickman, yes. Jonathan Myers?
Aye.
Robert Page?
Yes.
Stony Van?
Yes.
Ron West?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So just for the record and for anyone who's listening, the petition was approved.
Okay. Going on to new business, you have approval of the 2026 plat committee meeting calendar.
Hmm.
That,
What?
is that on here? Or is that old?
No, you're reading the minutes.
Oh, that's the old one. Sorry.
Maybe you shouldn't be tripping.
Gotta get myself organized.
I was like, what are you talking about?
There we go.
I'm
Get to
with
the
you,
right
Steve.
one.
I knew what you meant, Steve.
Okay, thanks. Okay, more importantly, the approval of the 2026 contract for Johnson County Plan Commission attorney who keep us all straight. Okay,
Is that same hourly rate, Steve?
Well, Angela says nothing has changed. Oh, do I have a copy? So
You got the copy right there.
Is it less?
I wouldn't bet on it.
here we go.
And quite honestly, I can tell you that. Yeah, well, the attendance at meetings is 135 per meeting.
Same rate then.
That's what I remember being the
I
rate.
move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Is this another roll call or I?
I think it's fine.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the legal contract. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. See any other reports, recommendations? So, move to adjourn. Second. All in favor? All opposed? Good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Great job, Mr. Chairman.
Stumbled through it.